everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those that are new here, hello, my name is Alicia. So today's video is going to be episode 10 of my calf rearing series. It is actually a question that I get all the time and I think it is a very important one, and that is, do you make money rearing calves on a small scale? So the short answer is yes, I do make money rearing calves. However, there are a lot of factors that come into this and we're going to be looking at some of those today. Now just remember, this video is aimed at small scale calf rearers. So me and my husband Jaden live here in New Zealand on a 10-acre lifestyle block where we rear about 40 calves in both autumn and spring. So in today's video we're going to be looking at all of the expenses that come up when we're rearing our calves, including the cost of milk powder, meal, bedding, the cost of the calves themselves. We're also going to be looking at ways that we try and keep our costs down. I'm also going to be talking about how much we sold our calves for. Now all of this information comes from the autumn that has just been. So I reared 43 calves, I think. So the figures that I'm going to be talking about today is specifically for the autumn that has just been. Now of course it can change every year like I mentioned before, but this is just a bit of an example of what it can cost if you are thinking about rearing calves for yourself. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to be breaking down all these costs per calf. So it's easy, I think, if you work out the costs per calf and then you can times this by how many calves that you want to do. Now also don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and check out the other 9 episodes that I've already made. This will really help you, especially if you're new to calf rearing. There's a lot of information there and I hope you guys like them. Let's jump right into this video. I hope you guys enjoy it and get a little bit more of an idea of the costs behind calf rearing, and I really hope it helps you out if you're thinking about doing some calf rearing this season. So there's a few things to determine how many calves you want to rear. A few of those is the size of your farm, the size of your calf shed, what experience you have in calf rearing, also how much money you have, because it does cost a lot initially because you've got to buy calves, meal, powder, everything all at once, and you do have to wait 12 weeks until you actually get your paycheck. Now don't get me wrong, I am definitely not saying go out there and buy 40 calves if you've never reared calves before. A good number to start with in my opinion is 5 calves. You can buy calf feeders like this one behind me from Stallion that have 5 compartments for those 5 calves. Now the reason I say don't start with just 1 calf is because you've got to make it worth your while. You're getting up every single morning for 12 weeks, and in the first part of it you've got to feed them twice a day. You can't go away, you've got to make sure you're at home feeding these calves. So yeah, you've definitely got to make it worth your while. Now the reason why I say 5 is that's because you have a 5-teat feeder and it uses the same amount of time and energy to rear those 5 calves as it would 3 calves, say, because when you're feeding your calves you put over the fence feeder, fill the whole lot up, wait for the meal to finish, and generally 5 calves drink the same time as 3 calves would, if that makes any sense at all. After you've had a bit of a think about how many calves you want to rear, of course you're going to think about who you're going to sell your calves to. So we rear our calves to weaning age because obviously we can't carry 40 calves right through on only a small amount of land. So we predominantly sell our calves to return buyers. We've actually got contracts. They come back every single year and buy my calves, so I'm very lucky. But other than that, I will sell all my calves to mainly lifestyle block owners. Speaking from experience, I don't think you should be sending your calves to a sale yard. Sale yards, generally you don't get as much money as you would by selling your calves on websites such as Trade Me. That's just my experience. Every time I've sold my winter calves at the sale yards, they definitely do not go for anywhere near the prices I'd get on Trade Me. So definitely if you're rearing calves on a small scale, target those lifestyle block owners. Don't go taking your calves to the sale yard. There is always your local stock agent, so give them a ring if you're struggling to find buyers for your calves. Right, let's get into the expenses of calf rearing. So the 3 biggest expenses you're going to have is obviously the cost of your calves, the cost of your meal, and the cost of your milk. Alright, first up is calf expense. So I have a rule for myself where I don't buy any calves over $100. You can generally pick up really good calves for under $100 if you wait until mid to the end of the season. Don't go trying to buy those early calves because they fetch a lot higher price than the calves that are born later in the season. I did do a video all about calf selection and what calves that we choose. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and buy the cheapest, smallest, runtiest calves at the auction. Definitely not, but you can get a very good, decent, big boned, good marked calf for $100 or less. Now, there are a lot of calf rearers out there that do a different system to me. They will pay $200 plus for their calves, for bigger boned calves, much bigger, but they'll feed those calves for only 7 to 8 weeks on milk, and they'll wean them a lot early and put them onto a lot of meal and grass because they generally have the land to do that. So the system that I use is I'd buy, say, a medium bone calf, although I do generally actually get big bone calves as well, but I'll be feeding them right through to 12 weeks on that milk. If I went spending $250 on a calf, I would literally make no profit. So that is why I have this rule for myself that I'm only going to spend $100 per calf. Of course, autumn calves are always priced more expensive than spring calves. There's not as many around. So this year my average price per calf was $93.50, which is a little bit higher than it is normally. In spring, my average price per calf is normally around $60. So yeah, definitely go check out episode 3 of my calf rearing series about that calf selection, and you'll see what calves I ended up with. So the cheapest ones I bought this year were $50 and the most expensive were $100. But you'll see that they are a really good size and really well marked. I am definitely not afraid to go home from an auction without anything. I'd rather leave the auction with calves that are healthy and big boned and good marked, and in my budget, rather than leaving calves that I regret buying. So to sum up calf expense, I like to keep my calf cost to under $100 per calf. I won't go buying any calf that is not big boned, well marked or in good health. Don't get tempted at buying the $10 calves. That's right, all the time at the auction there's always some calves at the end for like $10. Generally they're really small boned, premature, bad markings, just not good calves. So when you are at a yard, they will always start off with the best looking big bone calves at the start, and they'll work their way down to the not so great calves. So you definitely want to be trying to buy the first lot of pens if they're within your budget. Middle pens are fine, but just try and avoid those last few pens because generally there's a reason why the calves are in there. Next up is milk, because obviously that is the main thing that you'll be feeding your calves for these 12 weeks, and it is definitely the most expensive part of calf rearing. So we rear our calves on both milk powder and whole milk. Now I have also done a couple of videos on this, so definitely go check them out if you want to learn a bit more about why we chose to feed our calves a mix of whole milk and milk powder, because both whole milk and milk powder definitely have their benefits, but also their disadvantages as well. Let's get into the figures of this autumn. So in total I used 66 bags of calf milk powder, 55 bags of the Premium Milligan's powder, and 11 bags of the Reliance whey powder. So that equaled on average 1.6 bags per calf. Premium milk powder this year was $100 per bag. Now you know that with inflation and everything, the prices of everything has definitely skyrocketed, but $100 a bag is actually not too bad. That's about what it generally is over the last few years. But by the end of the season, when I switched to the whey milk powder, the whey milk powder was $97, and then the premium milk powder was actually $120. But luckily we bought a ton of the premium stuff at the start of the season, so we could lock in that price of $100 per bag. So milk powder is definitely your biggest expense. This year I spent $6,567 on my milk powder. Now apart from milk powder, we also bought whole milk from a lot of farms, and we bought 6,400 litres for $880, which worked out at roughly 13 cents per litre. Whole milk is definitely a lot more cheaper than milk powder. Definitely go and check out that video if you want to learn more about it. The next biggest expense is calf meal. Now we use muesli and then the protein pellets. So muesli, we only use 3 bags this year. We use very little muesli because it's quite expensive, and we only use it to try and get the calves onto pellets. So muesli is really high in molasses and the calves love it. So generally we start with muesli just to get them interested in eating and nibbling some of the pellets. This year we used Grow Up 20% protein pellets. We ended up using 114 bags, which equaled out to be 2.71 bags per calf. So this meal ended up costing us $3,021. We bought it in a ton at the start of the season and it comes in 20 kg bags. There is a lot cheaper ways to do this, such as buying it in a big sack or buying it in solo proportions, but it was just easy for us, just easier to handle when the meal is in a bag. Next up, we're going to be talking about vet bills, health management, that kind of thing, because there's always something that will come up with rearing calves, so you've definitely got to budget this in and allow some extra money if the calves get sick or something does go wrong. So first up is electrolytes. So we used 2 5 kg tubs this year and they were $94 each. So the brand we like to use is Excel Plus from Milligan's. In my opinion, I think this electrolyte is the best bang for your buck. Next up is calf vaccines. So we bought Maltine 5-in-1 vaccine for $62 for a 250ml bottle. Now this bottle does 125 doses, and of course we didn't need to use that much. However, you've got to use this product within 6 weeks, so definitely allow $62 for that 250ml bottle. Same with our calf drench. We like to use Skanda by Coopers. This was $173 for 2.5 litres. Now of course that is way too much for our calves, but you can use this year after year. I don't think it actually expired till 2024 maybe, so we can definitely use it next year as well. This year our calves also needed a few drugs from the vets, so we used Depasilin and Medicam. So the Depasilin was $87 for 250 mils and the Medicam was $97 for 250 mils as well. So I definitely like to have these two on hand. Just if something comes up, it's great to have them there as an option. But definitely if you do have issues with your calves or notice that they're quite unwell, then obviously call your vet and they will help you out. Also this year I had an unexpected foot rot issue, which I have never had foot rot in calves, and it costed me $300 for a vet visit. We also had to buy some foot rot spray and things like that. So yeah, that's another $300 to put on the costs. Yeah, I suppose you've just got to plan for unexpected things to happen, because things like this always do happen when you're rearing calves. I was also lucky that none of my calves this year had horns. I don't know how I winged that, but they were all polled. So definitely remember, if you do get calves with little buds, you should probably dehorn them. It just makes it easier for resale. I cannot remember off the top of my head how much dehorning is, but I think it was something like $7 a calf. But then you had to pay travel, and then there was a minimum charge or something. But it's not actually that much. Like, it was actually surprisingly not as much as I thought. Next up is calf bedding. Now I did do it a little bit more expensive and weird than I normally do. That's because we're using this little calf shed this year. We are actually building a big new calf shed really soon, so I'm real excited for that. That's actually going to get underway within the next few weeks. So definitely subscribe to keep up to date with the new calf shed, because that is going to make my life so much easier. But anyways, getting back to calf bedding. So because our space was a little bit awkward, I decided to use super shaving bales, which you can get from Farmlands or Farm Source. So these bales are like a big cubic meter of compressed sawdust, and they cost $83 each, and I used 4 of these this year. I'm not gonna lie, I do actually really like these sawdust bales. They're just really convenient, and it's just really easy to top up the pens and freshen up the pens, because you just open up the bag and just kind of flick the sawdust everywhere and you're done. So if you check out episode 1, I think it is, on setting up my calf shed, you'll see me in action flicking all that sawdust around. There's also a few products like hydrated lime. You'd see in that setting up video in episode 1 that we hydrate lime our pens just to kill bugs and dry it out. That stuff's pretty cheap. It's like $20 for a big bag, and that big bag will last you ages. I think I'm actually still using the same bag from like 2 years ago, so not a very big expense, but well worth it. Now there's also vet sand. Don't forget your calf disinfectant. So we use vet sand because vet sand kills crypto as well as all the other bugs. There is another one out there called Vercom, but that doesn't kill the cryptosporidium. So because we've had crypto in the past, I definitely go for the VetSam product. Cannot remember the price off the top of my head, but I know it is quite expensive. We bought a 5-litre bottle. I think it was like 160 bucks, something like that. But yet again, it lasts us a few years. But definitely need to get a disinfectant for your calf pens. Probably so much more like niggly things that I'm going to forget, like iodine spray for their navels, which is like 15 bucks for a litre. Replacement NATE tags. We actually had to replace a few NATE tags this year. I think those ended up being actually 10 bucks each because we had to pay so much for the courier. But yeah, there's probably a lot of other little things, but oh, that shed's making a banging noise. But yeah, there's probably so many more other little things, but I just wanted to look at kind of the main expenses for this video. I'm not going to be talking about all the setup costs because everyone's setup is going to be completely different, which feeders you use, what your sheds look like. So this video is purely just like the calves, the milk, the meal, all the things that you use every year, not really your costs of feeding equipment and stuff. But if you do want a video of that, like how much it costs to set up for calf rearing, the costs of feeders, teats, bottles, everything like that, then definitely let me know and I'm happy to make a video about that for you. Right, so after all those expenses, the total expense for the calves, the milk, the meal, the vets, everything, I'm just looking down because I have my piece of paper, my total expenses were $15,767.93. So that was for 42 calves, which is a little bit higher than my normal expenses, but just bear in mind if you are thinking of rearing 42 calves, then you will need to have that $15,000 set aside, because like I said earlier in the video, you don't get any money back until the end of the 3 months when you sell your calves. Alright, so now let's break all that down into the cost for one calf. So this is obviously going off what it cost me just the autumn that has just gone. So the calf was $93.50. I used 1.6 bags of milk powder, so that's $160. I used 152 litres of whole milk per calf, so about $20. 2.7 bags of meal, which is $71.55. All the vet stuff, including electrolytes and everything, $22 a calf. And then bedding, $8 a calf. And there is probably a little bit more of extras in there that I've missed out, but those are the main things. So that comes to $375 per calf. We are going to be talking about profit, finally, how much I made. So we sold all our calves this year for an average of $535 each, which totals $22,470. So if you minus the expenses from that, I end up making around $6,700. So if you work it out over 14 weeks, it's about $480 a week. So it's not like amazing, but then if you figure out you generally actually only feed your calves for about an hour in the morning, once they're on once a day. So if you're earning $400 a week for literally working about 7 hours, then it is actually like not too bad. So yeah, essentially you're getting 480 bucks for 7 hours work, which to me isn't too bad, and I love doing it. If you're in it to make the big bucks, then maybe calf rearing isn't for you. But then like I said, the market can change at any point. Milk powder prices can come down, calf prices can come down, and then obviously you're going to make more money. Also it could go in the opposite way. Prices can keep going up and then you make less money. So definitely make sure you're budgeting, that's really, really important. And definitely budget higher than you would think, because a lot of unexpected things can occur when you're rearing calves. Now also obviously the more calves you do, generally the more money you'll make, because obviously you can buy everything in bulk, which when you buy bulk you get things for cheaper prices. But obviously that's not always the case. If you're overcrowding your pens, overcrowding your paddocks and things, then it can lead to more issues, costing you more money and so on. It's also a good idea to budget for loss. Generally you will lose a few calves each year. I've actually been really lucky, even though having crypto in my sheds, I haven't lost any calves for the last 2 seasons, so I've been really, really lucky. But I will always put that into my budget to lose probably, I don't know, 3% of calves maybe, so 3 out of 100. Some years I have lost a few and it definitely did put a dent in my profit. So that's just another thing to consider as well when you are budgeting for your calf rearing. Yeah, anyways, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope you guys got some valuable information out of that and you now have a better understanding of the costs and the expenses behind calf rearing, and hopefully now it helps you guys with your budget. And if you're thinking about rearing calves this season, it gives you a bit of an idea of what it kind of costs to rear calves and what sort of profit that you make out of it. I hope to see you guys in another one of my videos. Definitely leave any video recommendations down below. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in another video. Bye.